For this third lesson here, we're going to be combining sweeps and going along the G major scale, except that it's an F major scale because I'm still in that D standard tuning rather than regular E standard tuning. Let me give you a D. Now, let's get started. The F major scale is quite the simple scale. You learn it as well as the minor scale at the same time, because what's the minor scale? The minor scale is inside of the same damn thing, inside of the same framework. So let's have a quick look at how we can apply our first lesson sweep and our second lesson sweep together. Now, you realize, hopefully by now, that there are modes out there, and that you already know them. That's starting with Ionian, for example, Aeolian, Lydian, etc., etc. What you can see and start to see once you practice the first two shapes that we've learned is that they're all over the place, these sweeps. You can just start to see where they are in your own mind. If you're practicing enough, at least you should be able to see it. And so you're able to look at, like, you're able to find where they are. And albeit there's one different one. That is a diminished sweep, but we're going to be focusing on the first two first. So let's have a little go, and let me show you something quite interesting. Start on the 7th fret with that first shape that you learned. Go up a fret to the 8th fret and do the second shape. Use the same shape and go to the 10th fret. Next is going to be the 12th fret, the octave, and use the first shape. 14th fret, same shape. And then finally 15th fret, the second shape. Whoa, man! It's like every note has a certain feel and mood and mode, and it has a sweep. Yeah, that's because it does. And the ones that I've taught in the first and second lesson are pretty basic major minor guys. And together you can make your scales and your shredding a little bit more cool, because when you're down here, for example, you can start really fluttering about once you know where they are, because that's the whole point. You need to know where you're going, right? That's how you connect up here, you know, where you want to be melodically and where you want to be in terms of where you want to be fast, etc., etc. It really connects everything, especially the modes together, because I know that was a pain for me. But for example, let me bring you over to the Aeolian mode here, which is going to start on the 12th fret, which is a D Aeolian. So take it slow. 12, 14, 15. Next string, same shape. Next string, 12, 14, 16. Again on the next one. Next one is where it gets a little bit more curious. 13, 15, 17 on the high A string, and then 14, 15, 17 on the high D. So you can kind of see, if you've been practicing, that you have the framework here. But the top string is going to be different from the framework of the Aeolian mode, simply because you're dipping into the other one. You're borrowing a couple notes from there. And that one is the Mixolydian mode that you're borrowing from, but we'll get into that later. Anyway, I hope that kind of explains things a little bit more curiously for you. I hope that I've incited some curiosity in you to practice your modes and your sweeping a little bit, for those of you who are like, oh, but I want to learn how to shred. Well, learn them. Take your 5 minutes out of your day. And after I learned all of these things in these last 3 videos, I loved to run around the fretboard with it, just to really get it under my fingers. And, you know, a lot of people are probably going to come and be like, oh, all this crap is meaningless. Well, no, it's not meaningless because people put value into it. So, sorry, buddy. Anyhow, the point of these lessons was to kind of give you a kick in your own ass to understand that if you want to get good at something, fucking practice, buddy. You can use a metronome, which I heavily suggest to get each note as precise as possible. You should be able to pick everything and be able to accelerate and de-accelerate speeds quite simply. And just make it a habit out of yourself to learn these things. Eventually you're going to start finding some sympathetic harmonies and things like that, like I did with this sixth approach for the minor shape. Because I quite like that, and I thought it sounded good, and I had a full range of motion. Maybe you only want to do the four string or 3-string sweeps, which are... At that point, if you want to make those things happen, you have to look within that framework you already know, and pick apart what works and what doesn't. Maybe you have to find that extra note. For example, on that C minor sweep that we learned in the second one, if you take out the 3 notes, the 17th on the 2nd string, 15th on the 3rd, 14th on the 4th, you can see how it's kind of Baroque, right? Well, what if you added the 19th fret on that G, I suppose, F string? Well, what you've got already is that octave. So, okay, if you have that 17, 15, 14, 19, and you decided to be a bit playful and Baroque, and you made it go down a fret, so that you've got the 16th fret as your starting place. Well, that's cool, but you could also move that high 19th fret to the 18th fret, because that's your octave. And eventually you're going to get that fast, but that's kind of like, why would you do that? Why do you need to do that? I don't know, maybe it's an ego. There's a lot more stuff coming up, and yeah, enjoy. I hope that this has piqued your curiosity, and I hope that you subscribe, because you really should.